Got a very panicked look on your face right now.
Really? Oh. Okay. No problems. No reboots, random reboots today.
Oh, that's good.
Welcome to GCP Life, episode number 68 for Friday, the 5th of July, 2024. GCP Life is sponsored by Mantle Group. At Mantle Group, we make your Google Cloud solutions possible. And I am your host, Stephen Bancroft. On today's show, which of the hyperscalers is making big moves? Google hires some new execs. What's all the hubbub with SSH at the moment? Plus, what do we do if the AI bubble bursts in the AI wars? But before we get to any of that, I'd like to introduce the co-host of the show, Adish Panther. How are you, Adish?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks. Spanky, how are you?
Good, mate. Good. You been up to anything during the fortnight?
Oh, last fortnight I was actually very busy getting some client work done. I was heads down on the work. So I didn't really get to make a whole heap of progress with the side project that I was working on for my running app, or the running coaching app that I was talking about last week.
Yeah.
But I've got the marathon this weekend, so yeah, that's been keeping me busy as well.
Best of luck with that. Yep.
Off to Gold Coast.
Where's at the Gold Coast, is it?
Yeah, off to Gold Coast on Saturday. So fingers crossed I'll survive on the Sunday.
42 grueling Ks, eh? Oh, boy.
What about yourself?
So I played a little bit more with my Kubernetes bare metal cluster during the fortnight. Of course, I don't know if I mentioned this last week, to make things that much more difficult for myself. I've got them PXE booting and they have an NFS root, which I'll get to in a minute, which I did manage to get working. I got that working using iPXE, which is the open source version of PXE. Pretty cool. A lot more options, lot more things you can do with it. And then, of course, to build the base OS image, I'm using Ansible to configure the three machines, all the same, and that worked great as well. Only problem is, for whatever reason, the kubelet process will not start.
Ugh.
Now, this means that the kind image, which is Kubernetes in Docker, which is used to instantiate the cluster, won't start, and it can't build the cluster out, the Anthos cluster out. So I've been poking around and trying to figure out what's going on. And, I've got an old laptop here and I can run it on that. Kubelet process starts fine. Just it will not start with the same image, the same settings. It will not start on these three machines I've got, which have an NFS root. Now, I'm not completely convinced of it yet, but I think that's the problem. There is some hints in the logs. It's not clear why it's not starting, but there is a cryptic error that mentions the text .nfs and a big long serial number at the end of it.
Yeah. I
think it's got something to do with the privileged containerization, or the privileged containers can't access an NFS root or something like that.
Could also be the containers, whatever user that the container is running as doesn't have any access to the NFS mount or the directories in the NFS.
Yeah, so you're right. I tried it as my non-privileged UID that has Docker, the Docker group. That doesn't work. And I also tried it as root, and that doesn't work.
Mm.
Now, one of the things that
did you try some chmod commands?
On what in particular?
On the NFS mount to give your root user.
Well, it's the entire file system. I don't know if you've ever used PXE boot before, but these machines are diskless, and the entire file system is mounted over the network.
Okay, right.
Yeah, so you can't chmod that, right?
Yeah.
And when you look at it, for all intents and purposes, if you're just a daggy old user on there and you're poking around, you can't tell that it's an NFS root. It just looks, I guess you could do a DF and see that it's not like a LVM volume, or it's not a SCSI drive. But effectively, it looks like just a normal disk. Well, it should. One particular thing that it does do is it wants to remount /sys as read-only. So under normal circumstances, /sys is read-write. And from what I understand, there was a bug on GitHub related to this. If it's read-write, then the kind container can go back into /sys and make changes, and it can have unaffected consequences. So part of the kubelet startup for a kind container is to remount sys as read-only. And there is an error when I manually try to start this kind container with a Docker command. It'll spit that error out. And but I can, as root, I can do a mount -o remount blah blah blah, and it'll remount it just fine. But when Docker tries to do it, no dice.
Have you tried getting into Docker and trying to play around? So my next thing is to you can execute a Docker container and you can leave it vestigial. It can hang around and you can get into it and have a look and look at the logs. Yeah, that's my next step, to go in and have a look. That's the only way to figure it out.
It's the only way to figure it out, exactly. So that'll be my next step. But yeah, I am really starting to suspect that my whole design is broken, and I don't want to put disks in them, but there's a way I can hack it to do it. Someone let me know, please, and to give me some feedback. Send me an email, let me know if it can be done.
Look, I'm no networking guru, but it can be done. I'm sure it can be. There are always ways around it.
Dish says there are ways. There are ways. Yeah, all right. So that's been my little. But I did watch a little video on YouTube. Funnily enough, we're talking about nuclear power and all the rest of it, and how Australia is going to create nuclear power. Well, controversially at the moment. Bill Gates has got a company called TerraPower, and he's building modern nuclear reactors. I'll link this in the show notes because it's a tangent to what we normally talk about, but I thought it was interesting. He said that they're funded and they could build up to 5 nuclear power plants in parallel. 5. They have enough funding to build 5 at the same time. And here we are struggling to build one.
Where is he building this? In the US, I'd imagine?
In the US, yeah. Yeah, because they've got the same problems as us with power, right? Yeah. All right, cool. Well, if that's about it for the banter, how about we get on with the community news? Quick one to kick off the community news, and once again, it's a tangent to what we normally talk about, but I thought I'd mention it because it does involve a couple of Mandalorians. We have Matt Merrill and Bojang Zivic, who are part of the AWS group within inside Mantle Group. They appeared on a podcast talking about AWS serverless, and it's called the Sounding Board, and the AWS Sounding Board. I'll link that in the show notes. Admittedly, I haven't watched it all yet, but it did seem like an intriguing discussion around serverless. What's
AWS again?
We'll get onto that later in the show where everyone's positioned. Actually, it's going to be our first news item, so we'll find out.
I am only messing. We love all clouds, but we love Google Cloud the most.
The most, exactly.
Another community event that we've got in Sydney next week is the GDG monthly meetup. It's actually hosted in the Mantle Group offices on the 9th of July. So yeah, come along, say hi. I'll be around. 2 talks planned. First one is fighting hallucinations with knowledge using Neo4j and Google Vertex AI. Sounds like a very interesting topic. And second one is serverless data pipelines with Cloud Run jobs. Very, very interesting ones.
I see, once again, you're also giving away a couple of JetBrains IDE licenses.
Yeah, I should probably explain that. Yes, we always give away licenses as part of GDGs now in Sydney because we've got a partnership with JetBrains. They've been kind enough to give away a couple of licenses every meetup. So it's really good. Come around.
Excellent.
Good initiative to come to the community.
Yeah, and we'll talk about JetBrains a bit later, but one of the new features coming up, you probably really want to get into JetBrains IDE because it's pretty awesome.
Yeah. More in the show coming about that.
That's right. All right, then, let's get on with the news items. And speaking of other clouds, acceleration economy. Now, we've had these guys, we've talked about these guys on the show before. They do a thing called the Cloud Wars. They've been doing it for about 10 years. And they sort of look at all the clouds and they make an assessment and they have a hot list, a top 10 of where the clouds are at the moment. And Oracle has leapfrogged Amazon and moved to number 3 position. So where it stands at the moment is Microsoft number 1, Google Cloud number 2, Oracle number 3, Amazon number 4, and SAP number 5. You know, that's I tend to agree with this. I mean, I wouldn't put it on the show if I didn't agree with it. What are Amazon? We're not seeing nothing exciting coming out. They're worth a lot more. Like we can't argue that they're worth a lot more, right? And they've got the big customer base, but I'm not seeing anything innovative coming out of them. What do you think?
Yeah, good point there. And just to clarify for our viewers here, we're not necessarily talking about the biggest cloud. We're talking about cloud that's the most innovative, right?
Exactly.
So, yeah. Amazon, absolutely, without a question, the biggest cloud in terms of revenue, number of users, number of people certified, all of that. But this is purely around innovation and how the user is put at forefront. So like this article goes on about just comparing AWS and Oracle Cloud and talks about, deployment options being faster, having databases that are autonomous, having databases that are autonomous, things like that, right? That's about
a big one. Yeah.
Yeah. It's about having features that enhance the user experience, not necessarily having features for the sake of having features.
Yeah.
So that's the comparison point of this particular article.
Yep. They also claim that their cloud is less expensive than others and completes jobs faster.
Yeah.
Well, but in my opinion, probably a more limited set of functionalities than other clouds.
100%. And that's probably why Oracle, we went over this the last few weeks around the last couple episodes ago about Oracle's integration with Google Cloud as well. So it just adds
now. Yep.
It just adds to that as well, right?
Yeah, that's right. So that spurred this multi-cloud sort of hype, right, between Microsoft and Google and Oracle and Google. AWS doesn't seem to have jumped onto it yet, right? So they're going to be following in that department now, right?
Yeah, and this article talks about 3 key points that Oracle has unleashed. Interoperability between clouds, which is what consumers want.
Yes.
Giving consumers choices on things, so that they can pick and match on where to run their workloads and how they want to run their workloads, and bringing the best options for consumers. It's acknowledging that one cloud may not give you everything that they want, but going to that mentality of every cloud may have certain specialties that they're really good at.
And you get to pick and choose.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's certainly interesting. When these guys make changes to that list, I don't think they do it lightheartedly, and that's certainly putting Oracle in good stead. So that means they're nipping at our heels now. So Google's going to have to really start to ramp things up. We've got a couple of articles here we're going to cover today, and you'll see that they definitely are every week.
Yeah, being honest, I think when I first read the article, I was a bit like, okay. When I read the headline, I was like, okay, what's this about? But when I went into a bit more research, I just realize how seriously these guys look at things and take this.
We've been talking about these guys for a couple of years now, and they're bang on target with what they're saying with their Cloud Wars reviews. Absolutely.
Is that where you got the AI Wars idea from? Now I know.
Wow, it's more of a Terminator thing, but anyway. So moving on, let's talk about Google Cloud for a little bit here. Google Cloud nabs AWS Microsoft Copilot execs to lead AI. Google Cloud has hired 2 vice presidents from rivals Amazon Web Services and Microsoft to lead its artificial intelligence cloud business as the 3 IT titans battle for AI market leadership. This is an article on CRN, and big move here.
Yeah, and just, all the big tech companies going for the best talent around, right? What I found interesting was both the new hires have actually worked for Google previously.
They have, yeah.
And they've, gone to Microsoft, Amazon, and coming back to Google, it seems. So very interesting. You've got, so one of them is Saurabh Tiwari, and the second one is Raj Pai, both of them holding pretty high positions.
And interesting thing, in their previous tenures, they've all had quite long tenures. So Tiwari was at Microsoft for 11 years previously. Pai had been at Microsoft for 15 years back in the late 90s, early 2000s. So they know the traps. They probably know all the people at that executive level as well. They all tend to know each other. Interesting to see how this is going to play out. Will it result in a little bit more cooperation between these groups?
Oh, that's
no,
probably not. Yeah, but Tiwari was actually the one who was leading up the Microsoft Copilot AI experience. So you can probably see where Google are going with this, given how successful Copilot was. They probably want to get a similar level of success with Gemini for developers with this hiring.
Yeah, I think so. Well, Google's certainly got all the basis of the technology there. It just needs to all be brought together in a seamless way, right?
Correct. And bringing someone who's done that with a very successful product, Copilot, only hints to that.
Yeah, and this article reiterates what we talked about in the previous one. AWS, Microsoft, and Google combined account for a whopping 67% of global cloud infrastructure services market.
Yeah, those are pretty big numbers.
Big numbers when you consider how big it is.
Given Oracle Cloud's innovation growth, you never know in the future. But
I think they're going to chip away at it. I really think they're going to chip away at it. We've got to watch out for these guys.
That's how Google Cloud chipped away, right? So never say never.
And look, while we're on the subject, Google to set up a new data center region in Querétaro. I hope I got that right. I'm not Spanish. I don't speak Spanish at all. But this is in Mexico, I believe, right?
Yeah. First nationwide and third in Latin America. So they haven't released a lot of details about it, just to maintain a sense of competitiveness. But a new region always means more opportunities for growth, more opportunities for revenue. And it is expected to begin operations in 2025. So not that far away, actually.
Not that far away, about 6 months away. We don't know. It probably won't launch with every feature, you know what I mean, with every service. That's typically what happens. And they just slowly bring the services online probably over the following 12 months.
Yeah, 100%. And the other two regions in Latin America are in Santiago de Chile and Sao Paulo in Brazil. So Brazil, Chile, and Mexico. Very exotic countries.
Yeah, looking forward to that for sure. All right, moving on then. This was interesting. Google Workspace reinvents company culture for modern workforces. I think we could probably talk on this for a little while, but researchers found, this is an article on IT Web, researchers found that switching to Google Workspace drives a positive culture change, a more secure productivity environment, and saves around a month of work per year per employee. That's all got to be good, right?
Yeah, just going off some stats published in this article was around the fact that, like you mentioned before, saves on average about 121 hours of work per year. And this research also found that 82% of Google Cloud Workspace switchers said that the team had become more innovative. 56% said Google made it quick and easy to get what they need from team members. And the average number of collaborators per document was a staggering 13.4%. Oh, sorry, no, not 13.4%, but 13.4 people.
Yeah.
You can't give a percentage of how many people contribute in a document.
So, as a raw figure, 13.4 people, yeah. Now, look, I have to say this lines up with my own experience. Really, it does. Having come from, and as our clients, they're Microsoft houses, right? You're using Office 365. I worked at an enterprise that was all Microsoft as well, and it's a different vibe. It really is a different vibe when you're working with that tool set. Back in the olden days, we would take a document, we would edit that document, we would email it out, and we'd email it out to all and sundry. We'd wait for changes to come back, and then someone would have to collate all that back together. It was painful. It was slow. There wasn't really, just didn't breed a collaborative way of working. And I think that hangover is still within that culture. I really do. It's a culture driven by meetings. There really seems to be a deep desire for people using the office environment to have meetings. Now, look, meetings are great, right, up to a point, but you just don't need to do it all the time, right? If you're using collaborative tools like this, you're tagging people, you can all edit the same document. You're using you can use Google Chat, a lot of places use Slack. Using tools like that, you just don't need to have that hangover that you had in, circa 2000 style productivity suites.
Yeah, 100%. And just to add a couple more points to that, Microsoft 365 was never a cloud first tool. It was a tool that was built very, very long ago, which was
Word.exe.
Correct, right? Correct. Yeah. And it only became, cloud was an add-on to the Microsoft tool. So the collaboration almost comes on as a second layer on top of the product. Whereas Google Cloud was always, Google Workspace was always designed as a cloud first tool with collaboration baked into it from day one, right? Yep. So you could always, even when I was at uni, I could just share a Google Docs link to someone and work on it and add comments.
So easy.
Correct.
So easy. Like, I had to explain this, a little bit of a tangent, but on topic, my bandmates, right? So we're getting ready for a gig, and we've got to have a list of the songs that we want to play, right? It's really important to know the order, the songs, the keys, for the timing and everything. Prior to me joining this band, one of the guys would put together a Word doc, convert it to PDF, send it out, right? And everyone would have a look and send him back their updates. When I said, look, no, don't do that. I just show him, let's make a Google Doc, just send the link out and we can just do it in real time, right? And then when we go the day before, we can just print it out and we've all got it, right? Beautiful.
Yeah. And another thing to add on to that, to increase productivity and asynchronous working, what's the first thing people do on Teams? Like there's a button to call someone, right? That's almost like ringing someone. So Teams actually encourages people to ring up someone, right?
Don't get me started.
Do you like, whenever I'm working at clients with Teams, the sound of Teams just randomly going off and getting a call from someone?
Yeah. Now, not only that, right? There is a basic. I'm going to bag on Teams here for a little bit, right? There is a basic fundamental problem with the way the workflow of Teams. Teams encourages fragmentation of the conversation, right? Without a doubt, right? You can reply in a previous meeting. You can reply in a previous call. You can reply in a direct message. You can reply in a group. People can be in different groups. There's too many channels. The conversation gets divided up and split up, and people that are important to the conversation, there's still backroom conversations going on that other people aren't privy to, right? And Teams encourages that behavior by creating all these separate channels. It does it automatically, beautifully, right? But the fact that it's created it means it's fragmenting the conversation.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're using a separate tool like Slack, you have to intentionally go in and create a group, or intentionally go in and create a channel, right? There's nothing linked to a meeting, which I actually think is great, right? I need to intentionally go out and do that, right? Which means that the conversation stays in one place.
Yeah, agreed. And to add to that, in Teams, again, Teams bagging a little bit, Teams, public channels are almost like a secondary class citizen in Teams, because the primary way of talking to people is either through direct messages or in group chats. Again, like fragmentation.
Or phone calls, like your phone calls.
Yeah.
Right, which it highly encourages, which is not what you want in a collaborative environment, right?
Yeah, 100%. So while this article gives numbers to certain statistics, I think we all knew like the benefits of using, cloud first collaborative tools like Google Workspace, Slack, and the likes, the benefits they provide over more traditional tools like Teams or Office 365 and the likes.
Yeah, well, I think Teams is trying. I think they've tried hard. That's the problem with Teams. They've over-engineered and tried hard, and it's just ruined it. It's just completely ruined it. This article does go on to say, Samantha says, other research by Google has found that switching to Google Workspace improves employee engagement. This is what we're talking about, right? With around 80% of employees saying that they feel more involved in projects and decision making. If you're remote, right? If you're remote, like, you are most of the time, and I am just about 100% of the time, the fact that you can go into a document and you can be on a call with one of your colleagues and you're both there editing it at the same time, you're going to be doing that in the office anyway, right? And you just don't feel remote. You don't feel disengaged. It's not like you're working on a single document by yourself and then you fire it off on an email, right?
Yeah. I mean, that's a feature that's still available in Teams, but what we're trying to get at is it's almost like an added-in feature which has its latency issues and functionality limitations as compared to what Google Workspace offers.
Yeah, I'll say it because you're probably thinking it always feels horrible. It just feels horrible compared to Google Workspace. Yeah. Really.
It just feels like they've done it because they just had to do it and there was no other choice.
Yeah. And out of that, they're saying that this results in a better employee experience with an average of 63% increase in employee retention. 63. I mean, you can't deny that, right? 63.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, from purely just an employee, as an employee, I would feel more empowered if I had the right tools, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. I might be slightly biased at the moment too because I've had to be on Microsoft Visio over the last week. I've been using Draw.io for 3 years. Oh, that thing's great. And you got to go back to Visio and it is horrible.
Yeah. That's the one con of being in a consulting firm. Yeah. The tools that you use are dependent on the clients you're on.
Yep. Don't get me wrong though. I tried my damnedest to convince them to do it in Google and Draw.io.
They'll get there one day, I'm sure.
No, look, I couldn't agree more with this. Having come from a traditional Office, Microsoft Office environment, now working in Google Workspace and having to daily use Office 365, I think I come from a fairly good position to make this sort of comments. And yeah, hands down, look, I'm probably biased, but hands down, Google Workspace is a clear leader in that for sure.
Yep.
Awesome. Okay, let's come down from that little high now. We'll talk about some security items. And we've got a couple of depressing security items, actually. The first one, and this was news back in May, but we've got probably a few more details of it now. 30 million potentially affected in a Tickettek Australia cloud breach. An article on Dark Reading. And we probably all heard about this by now. An incident with direct parallels to the Ticketmaster compromise. An Aussie event giant says it was breached via a third-party cloud provider as Shiny Hunters takes credit.
Yeah. And more concerning point from this article that I took away was the Ticketmaster event was part of a much broader cyber campaign against poorly structured Snowflake accounts.
That's right.
That hit as many as 165 organizations. Some other organizations that have been named here are Advanced Auto Parts and Santander Bank. So, yeah, that's a lot of organizations. And if not, I wouldn't be surprised if those numbers are a bit smaller because a lot of organizations are on Snowflake these days.
Absolutely. And it wasn't a sophisticated attack. They just targeted accounts that did not have MFA enabled. And they just did some stuffing attacks from password lists that had already been released.
Yeah.
I mean, how low tech? You could just have a script that does that.
Password 123.
Password 123. And in more than one case, they found that the passwords had not been rotated for 3 years. After 3 years, this is analysis that Mandiant did on it, right? So this is where it drew my interest.
Yeah, I saw that. So Mandiant is now Google Chronicle, correct? So this is probably something that's been done through Chronicle analysis then.
That's right. Google Cloud bought Mandiant a couple of years ago, and now that's their cyber divisions.
I think the biggest takeaway is just doing the basics right. Again, with every breach that we read about, it's always not having the fundamentals of security at a wider organizational level. Password rotation, MFA, being aware of leaked passwords. Mm-hmm. Those are security-focused activeness that an organization should probably do with its employees to avoid situations like this.
Yeah, but what about, the service provider saying something like, we have you have it on your desktop, right? You have a mandatory password rotation on your Windows desktop after 90 days or 120 mm-hmm. days or something. Why can't Snowflake, or I'm not saying Snowflake, I'm not picking on Snowflake here, but the service provider in particular, to say, oh, look, we're just going to expire these passwords after X time, and you have to rotate it. Simple as that, or you lose access to your service. That'll encourage them to rotate it, right?
Yeah, 100%. That I'd say some companies already do that now, but it just needs to happen at a wider scale. That rotation enforcement.
Yep. And MFA as well. I mean, I over the last 6 months, I've got numerous emails from services that I have that are saying we're implementing MFA.
Yeah,
you know?
and I've actually gotten numerous emails saying someone's logged into this account. Please verify in my emails. So, and then I've gone in and changed my password for those services.
Immediately change your password. That's right. Or you get a strange text on your phone. Oh, I didn't try to log into that. Better go and change that password.
I haven't used that platform for years.
Yeah. And my while we're on the subject, my Bitwarden audit is ongoing. I've had a few accounts deleted. I've gone and asked for a few things to be deleted, and I'm almost there. With having all my passwords unique. So it's ongoing. So rotate your passwords. Sign up to have you been pwned as well. That way, if the email account appears with a password in combination, you'll get an email to that account saying your account has appeared in a list, and that can prompt you then to go and change the password. I think you can go and check it to which one was used. So go and do that. All right, moving on. This week's big scary news. SSH CVE. Everyone panics when there's an SSH CVE. Panic. Right.
Everything's going to be attacked.
Everything's going to be attacked. Sadly, though, this was a regression. We'd seen this one before. It was fixed, and then it was unfixed.
So how did that unfix happen then, Banky?
They just reintroduced the same problem. So if you look at... I don't have the vulnerability impacts versions between 8.5 P1 and 9.7 P1. Versions prior to 4.4 P1 are also vulnerable to the race condition. So they fixed it and then they unfixed it. I don't know exactly how. I suppose you could go back and look at the pull requests if you were keen and find out what was actually done. But let's just talk about the vulnerability first. It's a race condition in the signal handler of SSHD, and it allows unauthentic remote code execution as root on glibc-based Linux systems. So a number of things have to line up for this to affect you. So first of all, you've got to be in those versions that I mentioned before. You have to be on a glibc-based Linux system. Of course, SSH works on Solaris and AIX and other platforms as well. There's a potentially 14 million vulnerable SSH servers out there at the moment. And it's a regression which was patched 18 years ago, and it's come back.
Yeah. The slightly silver lining in this is that both Palo Alto and Wiz have said that the vulnerability is unlikely to be subjected to widespread exploitation, given that an attacker must know in advance what Linux distribution they're targeting.
Correct.
For any functional exploitation. And the other factor is that the attack can take as long as 8 hours to complete and require as many as 10,000 authentication steps. So it's not
doesn't mean they can't try, right?
Correct.
Doesn't mean they can't try. If they see an OpenSSH, they're going to have a go at it.
Yeah,
right?
100%. It's more like it's not as bad as once, when I first read it, I was like, holy shit, okay, this might be pretty bad. When I first heard about it, it's not as bad.
Yeah, so let's talk about what it actually is. I'm going to attempt to explain this, Adish. I'm really going to try here, so just hang with me. Basically what happens if you go in to do your authentication and that authentication isn't completed within 120 seconds, SSHD will send a SIG alarm handler, right? It signals that. So you can send a signal to a process. You can do a kill, and you can send a signal to it, right? So this triggers when it doesn't complete in 120 seconds, the SIG alarm handler goes off and it's called asynchronously, right? Now, what that means is, and it's called asynchronously in an async, and it's not async safe. Now, this gets to the crux of what is an async safe handler. Well, an async safe handler is a handler that can be re-entered into. So let's look, and now I'm going to go directly from the Linux manual here. We're going to talk about the printf function, for instance. So if you're in printf and you're printing something out, and then a signal gets sent, it gets interrupted by a signal handler that also calls printf, right? That second printf will operate in an inconsistent way with unpredictable results. So it's not re-entrant. You can't go back into it if you're already in it. So it's not async safe. Right? That's the problem. So you can end up with whatever data in there is not async safe. Now, the Linux manual handbook does list a bunch of functions that are async safe, and there's a number of ways you can deal with it by making a function async safe. But this particular SIG alarm handler is not async safe, and you cannot re-enter into it. So what the attacker needs to do is invoke a re-entrance into that handler. And how do they do that? They have a very specific set of code that that can induce this race condition. So what it does, it prepares a packet of data. It sends the data except for the last byte. And then it waits a very specific amount of time, 1 millisecond in fact, to extend the timeout. And then at that exact moment, it sends the final byte. Now, the reason for that is because you've got to induce the re-enter into that SIG alarm process. And then once you do that, you can inject commands at root level, right? And I'll link an article on the show note that actually shows you the C code that does this. And the reason for having to create so many connections is because it doesn't always happen. Because of, quantum variations in quantum flux and timing and all the rest of it, it doesn't always land exactly on the 1 millisecond. So you have to try 10,000 times and you have to fill up the entire connection buffer in order for this to happen. That's my 2-minute explanation for why it's happening.
Nice one. I mean, yeah, that was very well explained. Thank you. Very well explained.
So the way to get around it, like the quick fix at the moment to get around it is to reduce that connection timeout from 120 seconds down to 0. But of course, that exposes you to a DDoS attack, right? If you have a lot of connections and it fills up, you got heaps of SSH processes running that are just hanging, it'll just fill up your memory and crash your box. You don't want that either.
So were you working on fixing some of these VMs on our internal sandbox environments?
Well, yeah, so if you've got a cloud environment, your best bet right now is just to shut off SSH from public addresses. Right, so if you've got a VPC, if you've got a default VPC in a project and you've enabled the SSH, the default SSH rule, it will be source address 0000/0. You don't want that. That's the first thing. Because we're going to have script kiddies going out and they're going to suddenly start going after all these SSH connections. Whether you're vulnerable or not, it doesn't matter. You're going to be copping it. That's the first thing I'd do. Better than having that is if you really need to get in via SSH that way, using that mechanism, direct SSH access, then just put your IP address in there and just only allow it from your IP address. Even better than that is identity aware proxy. Just SH in using IAP. You don't even need to open the SSH port.
Okay. Yep. So steps to take. Easiest thing is, according to you, just remove the default allow firewall rule to your VMs, and if you really must SSH, add those exception rules as a higher priority rule that can override the deny that you've implemented.
Yep.
But even better, use IAP.
Use IAP. That's it. All right, then. I think that's enough of the news items. Let's get on with the AI wars.
Which today we found out where it came from.
Sort of in a way. It was mentioned on an early show with Dave Wall, good friend of the show. All right, to kick things off, I thought we'd take a look at Anthropic Claude on Vertex AI is now generally available. It's good stuff. Anthropic's newly released model, Claude 3.5 Sonnet, is now GA on Vertex AI. Excellent stuff. I'll link to the Google Cloud blog article, but they're saying there's a number of things you can do now, which you could have done before, but you can do them better now. Coding. When provided with the relevant tools, Claude 3.5 Sonnet can independently write, edit, and execute code with sophisticated reasoning and troubleshooting capabilities to streamline developer workflows. Nice. Customer support. Now, I thought this is interesting. Handling intricate queries with nuanced context understanding. Claude 3.5 Sonnet can orchestrate multi-step workflows and help deliver exceptional customer experiences. I think we all know a business or two that could do with this.
Yeah.
Data science, or this is a gimme. By navigating unstructured data and leveraging tools such as internal data sources and APIs, Claude 3.5 Sonnet can generate high-quality statistical visualizations. That's interesting. Application predictions and variable insights. And then visual processing. Claude 3.5 Sonnet can interpret complex charts, graphs, and illustrations that require visual understanding.
Yeah. Some other use cases that can be leveraged using Anthropic Cloud. Sorry. Couldn't even say the word. Anthropic Claude on Vertex AI that Google have listed is building on scalable infrastructure, so easily go from those POCs to production grade generative AI application. Vertex AI is the industry leader there, right? Maximizing performance while optimizing costs. So getting the best bang out of your buck. Managing models and data in a responsible manner. So, Vertex AI has those built-in data governance, privacy, and security controls because it's built within Google Cloud. Leveraging a very robust enterprise tooling, and then making the most out of business data that you can store in Google's BigQuery, for instance, or Spanner, or anywhere. Those are just Google Cloud tools.
And probably Oracle soon.
Yeah, and Oracle.
Wouldn't surprise me.
Oracle databases.
So, yeah, it's nice to see this go GA, and yet another feather in the cap for Vertex AI and another LLM you can play around with.
Yay for more LLMs.
Speaking of LLMs and JetBrains, JetBrains AI assistant to integrate Google Gemini AI models. JetBrains plans to use Google Cloud Vertex AI development platform to bring Google Gemini AI models into JetBrains AI Assistant. So you really do need to get one of those licenses that Dish is going to be giving away. The company's AI-powered program assistant that integrates with JetBrains IDEs. Now, this doesn't sound like a big deal, right? We've got Copilot, and I've got, I've got Gemini in my visual code there. But the thing is, this will automatically select the most suitable LLM for each task.
Right. So it will actually so it can also use ChatGPT 4 as 4.0 as well. Is that correct?
That's right. It's going to pull, on the 18th of June, they announced that it's going to integrate ChatGPT 4.0 as well.
I haven't.
So it's going to be.
Yeah. I haven't used.
So ChatGPT 4.0, Gemini, and the JetBrains proprietary models, and it'll automatically select between them all.
Yeah. And is this I'm assuming this would only be available in their paid version of JetBrains and not necessarily in the free licensed version. They don't really mention any of that here.
They don't mention any of that. I think it would be safe to assume that would be the case.
Yeah, they're not going to give this away for free.
One of the cool features that this article mentions is that developers can ask questions in a chat with the IDE.
But we can already do that.
So it's
in VS Code.
It's Clippy. it's Clippy for 2024. Would you like to write some code?
Yeah. But we can already do that in VS Code, right? So they're just catching up with it, I'd imagine.
Yes, true. But the difference here is the model selecting based on the task.
Yeah.
Right, so they would have curated which tasks are best for which model, what's getting the best results, and then they probably use another LLM to figure out what you're trying to do and then pick the model for it. Right?
Yeah. I mean, I can see the value there. I'm just putting a counter argument saying I can have Copilot and I can have Gemini at the same time running in my VS Code IDE right now, right? So the only difference is now JetBrains model will determine which one to choose rather than me as a developer will be choosing those models. Is that the biggest difference here?
I reading between the lines in this article, yes, that seems to be the case.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I would still hope that they still give the developer the choice of choosing what model they want to use.
Oh, I'm sure you can. But yeah, go and have a look. Give that a go if you like. But while on the subject of AI, it is the AI wars. I didn't know about this. The AI Sprint was on, and the AI Sprint is an award for top AI innovators. There was $500,000 on offer in Australia's first AI Sprint. It's a collaborative effort between the National AI Centre, Stone and Chalk, and Google Cloud. This is why it got our interest. And there were 3 winners. The winners were Dragonfly Thinking, which received $300,000, Kindship, and Empathetic AI were each received $100,000 in support. And they came up with some pretty cool ideas for using AI. So Dragonfly Thinking, which is an ANU spun out of one of the professors there, developed an AI tool to facilitate inclusion and flexible thinking on complex business and policy issues. Their tool provides clear insight to enhance decision making.
Yeah, looks interesting. The good thing is this is for companies who are startups, right?
For startups,
so
yeah.
The great thing to see is them getting a substantial amount of money to start off, to venture out, and then additional support as well to help them secure more capital, customers, expertise, and talent. Stone and Chalk is the service provider that they'll provide them with these additional support to specifically the winners of the competition. So, yeah, I mean, Gen AI is the new 1990s .com boom, right? So every new
it absolutely is.
Every new company is doing Gen AI. If you're not doing it,
doing
then
a Gen AI product.
Yeah.
Now the other 2 winners were the company called Kindship, and they created an assistant called Barb, and offers 24/7 guidance on navigating NDIS, providing instant advice on budgeting, provider selection, and therapy options. Now, I don't know if you've ever, you probably would have gone to a government website and you had to click here and click there and read this and read that. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Right. If I had some AI to help me get through that, then I would appreciate it. So that's really what this is all about.
Especially around tax time, man.
And that's what the next one here is. Empathetic AI's tax co-pilot, Luna. provides scenario analysis, real-time ATO private ruling updates, and automated legislation reference checks. Now, that is handy as well.
And that's why I wanted to mention it, and you stole my thunder.
Yeah, I stole your thunder. I was reading them out. Oh, you read it. I'll put it back in.
No, it's all good. Good fun.
Yeah, so, mate, this is just the tip of the iceberg, right? I can't wait to see some of these tools that are going to come out just to make things so much more easily. Instead of having to sit on my phone for 3 hours to ask someone a question, right? The government just has an endorsed thing. You just go and ask it. Oh, yeah, you go here, you go there. Would you like help? Click, click, and bang you through, you know?
Yeah. I mean, the only caveat to all of these tools is you probably still want to be a bit sure about what you're reading from, especially if you're making tax decisions just based on what the summary of a LLM model. Probably got to do a due diligence before making. Yeah. I mean, it can still guide you, right? It can guide you and then land you in the right place where you get the document and then you verify against the official documentation. Yeah. Right. Yeah. You don't want to, because sometimes that's half the challenge, just navigating the documentation. Yeah, you don't want to accidentally claim things that you haven't, that you're not eligible for doing tax returns. I'm sure that never happens. No one's ever done that. Never. And look, just to finish it off here, talking about the AI bubble. ChatGPT, there's a lot to unpack here. ChatGPT 4 identifies 3 stocks to survive if the AI bubble bursts. So it's just meta upon meta there, right? Yeah, so an AI model is trying to predict if the same AI model is successful, what shares would survive. What would survive? Yeah, what would survive? I'm sorry, Dave. I feel my mind disappearing, Dave. That's, it gives me 2001 vibes. But anyway, and no surprise, it says Microsoft number 1. Mm-hmm. And look, you got to agree with that. I mean, we talked about this a few weeks on the show, right? I mean, for whatever reason, they survive. They just hang around. They're not going anywhere. Mm-hmm. Microsoft, the next one, again, no surprises. Alphabet. I mean, ChatGPT is tipping its hat to its competitor. So again, no surprises there. But both of those come around diversity. Correct. Right. Yeah. That's really what it's about. You look at both Microsoft and Alphabet, how diverse their services are and what they offer. If one thing falls down, doesn't matter, you've got something else to prop it up. Right? Yeah. I mean, the third shares they list is probably not the most diverse in terms of what they offer. They offer one thing, but they offer the most critical thing, right? Any guesses? Drum roll, please. No surprises. It's NVIDIA. The world's most valuable company right now. Yeah, but in a way they are diverse, right? I mean, yeah, sure, they're making, the dense compute that's required for AI, but they've got this whole graphics card thing as well, right? And people are spending, huge sums just to put the latest and greatest in their home machines, and there's millions and millions of machines around the world, so they're always going to have that, right? 100%, agreed. I was thinking more diversity in the sense that what are the different services and products they offer? So Microsoft, Google, they have multiple revenue streams, which are equally, I wouldn't say equally, but very important, right? So the cloud offerings, Google has its search engine, YouTube, now Gemini, all of those combined, similar to Microsoft, they've got hardware, big Office 365, which we bashed a lot in this call, their own cloud service. So NVIDIA, in comparison to those, probably doesn't have as wide a diverse revenue stream. But what they do offer, no one else does. So
They're the only game in town.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Like I said a couple episodes back, they're selling the shovels in the gold rush.
Yeah, shovels in the gold rush, yeah. Boy, oh boy, and they're making some super duper shovels too, I tell you what.
Yeah. Some very, very big shovels.
big shovels. A lot of horsepower. Look, so a bit of a fun one there. They ended off. Go and check that out. I'll link it in the show notes. But look, I think that's about it for us today, Edish.
Yep. Another fun episode. Lots of interesting topics.
Been a fun episode. We jumped all over the place today, and I really tried to explain that SSH vulnerability. I hope I did it justice. There's some smarter people out there that can explain it better than me, so go and have a look at their blogs. Don't forget to go to iTunes, write the show a review. That would really help. Of course, we're on iTunes, Spotify, and we publish to YouTube as well. So go to YouTube, start the conversation on YouTube, and smash that like button while you're there. And don't forget, today's sponsor is Mantle Group. At Mantle Group, we make your Google Cloud solutions possible. I have been your host, Stephen Bancroft, and this is Adish Panther. Anything else from you, mates?
Nah, nothing much. Nothing much.
All right, we will get out of here, and we'll see you in a fortnight. Bye.
See ya. How do you get Gemini to summarize this?
Gemini to summarize it. Oh, dear. It's not a bad idea, actually.
I don't think even Gemini would be able to do it.